My name is Joe Sitton. I was born December 1943, a little town called Lynchburg, Virginia. Raised up in Bedford County, a little village called Forest. We were a very, very poor family. We were the poorest family for miles around. So I learned to work hard at an early age. I had my first job when I was 9 years old, working in a little country store, stocking shelves and sweeping floor. The broom was almost as tall as I was before you got to the handle, but they paid good. I got 25 cents for every afternoon I worked, and if I worked all day Saturday, I'd get a whole dollar. So I learned early in life the value of having a little jingle in your jeans. Um, from that, I just continued to grow. I mowed grass. I weeded gardens. I was very fortunate at an early age. There was a gentleman down in Bedford County named Mormon Fields who was a big pony man. And he would catch us kids around the community that would want to ride these ponies for him, get them broke, and he'd bring you a pony, a sack of grain, a couple bales of hay, and a silver-wood saddle. And if at the end of 30 days this pony rode well, you'd pick that pony up and give you another one. He'd give you a $10 bill. Well, back in the 50s, $10 was like getting a fortune to a 12, 14-year-old boy. It was a great experience. I finally made it through high school. I was not a straight A student. The craft programs in school was much more my forte than the book learning, but I did manage to pass everything. Had an opportunity to go to college, but I decided no, I'd rather work for a living, and I had to be going more in debt. I hit my first piece of hot steel in 1962. They had an ag class there, a little school called New London Academy, which it's pretty much defunct now. It was a county school. I had such a big class of students. There was 31 of us in the whole senior class, including the girls. We had an ag teacher who was pretty good at welding and we had a little welding deal. We had a little electrical deal. We had a little blacksmithing deal. And he taught us to make punches. So the first punch I made when I was 17 years old in 1962, 18 years old, was making a punch. And I kept that punch for years and years, and I have no idea what happened to it, but I would recognize it if I saw it again today. But then that summer, I was riding horses for a gentleman who kept me out of jail a time or two and got hurt pretty good. And an older blacksmith there, a gentleman by the name of Roland Duval, took me under his wing to learn how to shoe horses. And we made about 85 to 90% of the horseshoes we used in those days. And so I learned back in the far at an early age making handmade horseshoes. And once you get bit by the cold forge, it gets in your blood and it's not going to get out. It's been in mine ever since then. I've had different pursuits in my career. I was a tour welder for a while. Then I was a tour blacksmith for a while with shoeing horses. I worked Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee in big barns that have like 100, 150 horse stalls in there. Did that for quite a few years, and then I got hurt real bad. After 18, 20 years of shoeing horses, I got hurt in my back real bad. So I went to raising cattle on my own and just cowboying. I rodeoed all my life. Had aspirations of being a world champion bull rider. But after about 2 years of that, I figured out that's only a good way to meet some really nice nurses. So I went back to the other end with my catch rope, and we made quite a few real nice rope horses. And then I just kept pursuing my cattle career. Ended up in Farrier County in 1982, a little town called Marshall, Virginia, where I met a gentleman by the name of Noel Putnam. And that was up in the early 90s or mid 90s, and Noel really inspired my blacksmithing career and helped me with it, and showed me how to get business, and he just kind of tutored me along through it and all, and helped me with my work, and it's been extremely rewarding. We've worked on multi-million-dollar homes. We worked on we worked for people that needed a railing but could not afford a railing. I just built a railing and give it to them. We have to give back. If more people would give back, we'd have a whole lot better society. People a little bit too hoggy. Fat hogs go to slaughter, pigs get to eat again tomorrow. I'll always be a pig. Count on it. So that kind of brings me up to date. I've won several championships in my lifetime with roping and showing horses and stuff, and it's been a very full life. The place I'm living on now, I bought back in 1997, and it's reasonable. It's a nice home. It's good. So that's kind of where we are right now. So.
You said you grew up without a father?
Yes. My father died when I was 5 years old. And so I was just jerked up kind of by my bootstrings. I was not a good teenager. I got in my share of fights. I got in my share of, I can't say I won a lot of them, but I got into them anyway. I ran away from home a couple of times. They called me one time halfway through the state of Tennessee. I was heading to Arizona to find my brother. Had no idea what town he lived in Arizona. I just knew that he lived in Arizona and I'd find him. So I decided to run away from home. That was not a good move. Tennessee State Police picked me up and they shipped me back to Virginia. And I had a friend of mine there, a family friend who trained horses there. They were going to put me in reform school and see if they couldn't soften my old hard head up a little bit. And he took me under his wing, a gentleman by the name of Max DePero, who taught me the quality of life and how to treat people and how to get along with society. I've never met a person that I didn't like at first meeting. The person had to make his decision whether I would continue liking him or not. I've never had any kind of discrimination in my life, whatever it is. We're all human beings. We should treat each other as human beings. I really like to try to teach people, because I found out in my 80 years of life that the dumbest man or woman you will ever meet in your life, if you will observe them long enough, they will teach you something. And if it's up to you to be able to decipher what they're trying to teach you. Simple things. Opening and closing the door. Painting the house, whatever it is, they can teach you something. And everyone, and I think, this is my opinion, I'm not a psychiatrist or a brainiac or nothing like that, but I think that everyone is born with an artistic ability in their body. Fortunately, some of us get to train and express this artistic ability better than others, because some people get tied up with raising a family, trying to pay for a house. They don't have time to go experiment at the anvil or with a paintbrush. And artistry is just not in blacksmith. Artistry is in everything in life. It's in people who make your sewing, your clothes and stuff, painters, brick masons, plumbers, electricians. They're all an artist in their right. And now, how they get to express that is entirely up to them. And I wish everybody would get a chance to express themselves a little bit more. But unfortunately, people get caught up with things and they don't get to do it correctly. Yeah.
Now, Joe, you said that you worked with horses for a long time. And I know now you do gates and architectural ironwork. Tell me about how you went from working with horses and roping to doing architectural ironwork. What made that transition happen, and what year was that?
I had a great uncle, lived out in Big Bend country, Texas. I went and visited with him for a couple of years and learned to ride and rope. And I've always been a little bit competitive. So I kind of got my cowboy skills together. I've cowboyed in Florida. I've cowboyed all over the United States pretty much, except for the West Coast. I never made it out there. But I have friends all over the country that I can call on and go visit and spend some time with and all. And then this roping got in my blood. And I always loved riding animals that didn't want to be ridden. I love bucking stock. And so that's why I was going to pursue the bull career, and that went downhill in a hurry. I continued riding saddle broncs up until I was about mid-20s, late 20s, and then I just went to the other end roping. But all total, I shot horses for about 40 years and was very successful at that. Worked with quite a few top-end farriers around the country. And I had a good reputation, but unfortunately I hurt my back and had to curtail that for a while. And that's how I come to Farrier County. And I came here as a manager of a large cattle operation, one of the largest east of the Mississippi. And at one time we ran about 12,000 head of grazing cattle on grass and had a crew of cowboys. And we were just, we did it just like they did in the old days, did off by horseback. And so that was a good experience with people, different types of people, different types of landowners and all, because you're in a very wealthy area up here, and you have to kind of handle people a little bit differently than you do in some other areas, but you handle them fair and be square with everybody. And then I used to take old horseshoes and make these cowboy figures. And I made them holding branding irons. I'd take somebody and say, okay, what's your name? And they'd tell me their name, and I'd take the first name and the last name, make a little brand with say, an A and a B, A and a C, or whatever it was, put in this branding iron, burn in a piece of wood and mount it on this little cowboy figure like made out of a horseshoe, like he was holding that branding iron. And people would just buy them things up left and right. And then I got to making some flowers. And I went through the knife and the tomahawk period and made a lot of those and sold a lot of them. And then one day it dawned on me, well, you're basically making tools that could hurt someone. You need to quit that and go back to making artistic work. So Noel Putnam stopped me one day over in town, and he said, I hear you make a pretty good rose. And I went, well, I think they're pretty nice. So he said, bring one by the shop. I'd like to critique it. So I took this rose by there one day, and he had a big old piece of 2-inch by 2-inch steel, or maybe it was bigger than the far, heat going and everything. And I walk in with this rose, and he went, oh, great, you brought that rose over. Let's go in the office and look at it. And I went, well, we need to work that piece of steel. You got your heat in there. No need to waste that heat. And he told me, young man, this is my forge. It's my steel, and that's my heat. And if I want to lay it aside, I'm going to lay it aside. Come on. And he laid that hot piece of steel aside. And I don't know how long it took him to heat that steel up, because he was doing some pretty fancy hole punching in it. But it took a while. And he just laid the steel aside, and we go in the office, and he just went through my rows petal by petal by petal. And he said, what do you sell these roses for? And I told him, well, pretty much what anybody's got in their pocket. And he said, well, this is not near enough. And this was back in the 90s, late 90s, I guess it was, because I was at this shop here then. And he said, if this rose came off of my anvil with an NP on it, it'd bring $500 today. And I went, well, yeah, but everybody knows who Noel Putnam is. Nobody knows who Joe Sitton is. They said, well, they're fixing to find out. Picks up the phone, calls this gentleman. He had a big area of gift shops spread around the country. And the gentleman ordered 12 of those roses at $350 a piece back in the 90s. Well, I thought I was just probably the richest man in the country to sell a rose for $350. And it's just grown from there. And Noel kept talking to me, and he said, well, I got this little table project. You need to make this table. Okay, so he coached me, and I worked on it and got it pretty good, took it over, and he went, nice table. You did a good job. And it's just mushrooms from there. It went from tables to like little yard gates to balconies to railings to big driveway gates, fences, wall sconces. it's just mushroomed from there, and then finally got to the point to where I didn't have time to shoe horses no more. So I quit shoeing horses and just went to blacksmithing full time. And that was about, I guess, somewhere around 2010, 12, maybe 15, somewhere in that area. And it's done excellent. And like I say, we've worked on houses that are worth millions of dollars. We worked on houses that were worth hundreds of dollars. We don't. When you walk in my shop and you have an idea, we're going to stop what we're doing. We're going to talk to you about your idea, and then we're going to decide. Well, okay, so we can do this much. And that's the hard part, deciding what you can do to fit in people's budget. Everyone should have a little piece of handmade ironwork, just for the feel, just for the looks, just for the texture that you get out of heating this iron up and working it with a hammer. Everyone should have that feeling. Some people can't afford our work. They just don't make enough money to pay their bills, especially in today's society, and be able to afford a railing costs $450 a foot, or a gate that costs $25,000. They can't afford that. So you kind of have to know you limit your clientele that'll fit into their package. Like I say, we've made railings and just give them away to people who have gotten elderly, and they've got something wrong with them, and they need help getting up and down steps. No problem. Just don't make a $10,000 railing and give it away. Make a utilitarian railing, take it over and put it in for them, and say thank you for your service. Have a good day, and it makes you feel so good inside. Now I raise an unusually large garden every year. Last year, we got about 2,200 pounds worth of vegetables out of it. I gave every one of them away that we didn't need for our freezer and was canned here at the house. I gave every bit of it away. And this year, we'll do the same thing. There's nothing no more friendlier than doing something nice for people and seeing the look on their face and the feeling of the gratitude they have for you donating something to them or giving them something. It just makes a man feel really, really good.
So you've been full time in the architectural work for about 15 years now?
15, 16 years. Yeah.
And you make a good living at it?
Yes, I do.
Yes, How much help do you have in the shop?
I have a girl who's been with me for like 15 years now. And I have another student. He started out as a student about 7 years ago. He was working for a government contractor, taking lessons on weekends and sometimes at night. And he retired from that 4 years ago, and now he spends a lot of time around here helping me out, as well as he's got a lawn service also that he works part-time. He doesn't do that full-time, but and he's turned into a pretty good little smith. Yeah, he's coming along really good. Yeah. So those are the only two people I have that basically work with me.
And you told me that you teach classes as well?
Right. Excuse me. Right now I'm teaching 2 students. They come in for 2 hours. I start my students out at 1 hour because it's my animals, it's my hammers, it's my equipment. And after an hour with a new student, their arm is getting so tired, they're not controlling that equipment very good. So they're just basically beating the hell out of my equipment. And I don't care for that because I worked hard to get this equipment. So once they get built up to where they have some arm strength, I'll keep them for 2 hours at a session. And I charge by the hour. And both of them, one of them's been with me now for about 6, 7 months. The other's been with me a little over a year. He's quite young, but he has the eye, has the ability. He has a little bit of a slight learning disorder, but we're overgrowing that. He's showing remarkable skills after a year of retaining knowledge and being able to go somewhere. And he's looking out of the box a little bit now. He's not making the same leaf I make. He's not making the same vine I make. He's not making this. He's got his idea of what his interpretation he wants it to look like. And I think it's very important to young smiths to, I encourage him to go out and watch other smiths work. He went up and watched Drew work in Maryland. And he's been to another smith or two that just watching them work a little bit that took to. And I think it's very important that these young smiths become exposed to more than one instructor. That way they can come back and go to the anvil and develop their own style. We all have our own style. Every smith has his own style. We all get to the same nice, pretty leaf. We all get to the nice, pretty table. We all get to the nice square corner. We all get to a nice miter and tenon joint. But we all go at it a little bit different. Yes, our end results will equal and be very nice work, but we all go at it a little bit differently. And I think that's very important that you develop this style that works in your style. The problem I see with a lot of young smiths is they waste a lot of time. They work over themselves. They're doing the same job twice. And that's something we need to teach them not to do. If you want to be competitive in today's market, you need to make it right and get them to slow down. Everybody wants to have done yesterday. Well, patience is a virtue very seldom found in women, very seldom found in men, but always found in good blacksmiths. And if you're not patient and you don't watch your steel and you don't watch your hammer, you're not going to make it. You have to learn patience. It's a virtue. It's just something you have to acquire. Yes, and I know it's quite befuddled when you take on this table project, and it's of a big leaf design, and it's all designed over where you need 250 leaves to fix these 3 tables, or 300 leaves to do. Oh, you build this gate. Okay, I need 40 of these leaves, and they got to be this big around. And you think, gosh, it takes an hour and a half to make that leaf, and I need 40 of them. Well, if you go ahead and make one, you only got 39 more to go. Then you got 38. Don't count them, just pile them up. At the end of the day, count them if you want to, or 2 or 3 days later, count them. Because you know you're not going to get them all made in 2 days anyway. And so that's kind of a virtue. We'll have that table over there, we'll have it half full of parts. People come in, they'll go, what is all this? Well, this is going to be a gate. And they go, well, where'd all these parts go? In that gate. Well, you can't put this many parts in it. Well, just come back in another 10 days and look at it. And so all of a sudden you start putting it together. And as I'll be the first to admit that I make mistakes. I have to go back and rework some pieces. Am I proud of that fact? No. Can I read a ruler? I'm very good at reading a ruler. I'm not real good at always following my own math. So sometimes I make this picket a little short. Sometimes I make it a little long. Sometimes when I put this Midas and tenon frame together, it's not quite square. It might be out a quarter of an inch somewhere or a half an inch somewhere. Now, just go back and fix it. Don't make a big issue out of it. Don't have a history. Just go fix it. It's a simple thing. Yeah.
You mentioned that you think everybody has in their body a little bit of an artist. Explain to me where you draw inspiration from. If you yourself are an artist, what inspires you in creating your designs?
Life. Everyday life. When you come out in the morning and it's dark and it's a little chilly and all, and you're looking around and there's a tree limb up there that's barely visible in the daylight, in the dark. And you go, wow, look at the design in that tree limb. Now, what was Mother Nature thinking when she drew that limb out there? you're riding down the road and you see a fence board that's crooked or it's falling off the fence on one end, and you go, well, that's kind of nasty. The fence board fell off, but that's kind of picturesque. And I study a lot. I buy a lot of books. I have a decent library. I don't have the library that I would like. And congratulations on your new set of books that you got the other day from your dentist. You lucky devil, you. Everybody's looking for those books, and not many people can find them. Just looking at things around what surrounds you. Okay. I've never seen a piece of metal that couldn't be made into something. Now, when it gets down to where it's 2-3 inches long and you get lost in the coal forge, no, that's a no-no. Don't do that. Don't melt it down in your forge and mess up your turret. But if you've got a nice hunk of metal out there, doesn't matter what shape it's in, you're going to rework it. You can take that piece of flat plate and turn it into a round bar. You can take that piece of flat plate, you can turn it into a flower with a stem on it. You can take the end off of that picket, a piece of 5/8 inch steel right there. What do you see there? I see a $15, $18 hook. No problem. Take a piece of 1/4 inch, 3/4 round. What I see there? I see the starting of a pair of tongs. What else do I see? There's a piece of 1 inch by 1/4 inch flat, and I can see the beginning of a set of double leaves in that. Draw this out, shape these up, make leaves out of it. I don't know what these were made for. What do I see there? Well, I could see another gate latch, or I could straighten that out and turn that into a really nice hook. $20. That was probably a piece smaller than, it was probably a piece like this right, well, maybe part of a piece like this right here. It turns into that. How long did it take? You probably got 15, 20 minutes in that. It was a good hot fire. So you just pick up artistry from everything. You look at it. One of my favorite tours is going over to the cathedral. I've been there 5 trips now, and every time I go, I find something new. The first trip is just awe-inspiring. I mean, it's just, they made this, they did this. The second trip, you start picking up details and everything. The third trip, you're taking your little roll-up ruler with you. One like this, you can easily slide in your hand, and then you start measuring flowers, and you start measuring joints, and then the fourth trip, you're getting down to the details. I'm not a real big fellow on photography. I've never been able to do photography worth a hoot. My pictures look like some of my earliest blacksmith work that I wish I hadn't sold. I'd given away because I hate to think of some of my very first projects that I did compared to the type of work I do now. I feel like I might have cheated those people a little bit, but they were willing to buy it, and I was needing the money, so I guess it worked out even. But everyday life, you just see beauty in it. Is it a flower? Is it a leaf? Is it an animal standing in the pasture? Is it a silhouette of something you see going down the road? It just look around. Open your mind. Look around.
You mentioned your library of books. Can you tell me what your 3 most referenced blacksmithing books are?
No. I know which 3 books. I've used a lot of different books, and it depends on what project I'm working on as to which book I reference.
If you had a handful that jumped out in your mind as, must have.
Well, I think for the beginning blacksmith, a real good selection of books is Mark Asprey's books, the 1, 2, 3 books. I think they cover the basics of our trade as well as any books on the mark. I think the old Standby, of course, is A New Edge of the Animal from what's his name, and
Jack Andrews.
Yeah. And then I've got an old blacksmithing book. I can't even tell you the name of it. It was done in like the late 1800s. I'd have to go down on the shelf and get the name of the book. But it has some very interesting diagrams in it. And it just talks about things, you just read about things and all. And I've never been a man that could afford $400 and $500 books. I've never been that prosperous in life. So I kind of have to shop around and find what I can find. And I have quite a few books down there that I went through them once and I put them back on the shelf. They had a little bit more technical work than I really wanted to get into. Yes, it was beautiful work, and it was done by some of the masters in the trade in the past, but it's just not my cup of tea. Yeah, I like to stay. I'm not big on abstract work. I want my work to say a picture. When you walk up and look at my work, I want it to make a statement. Yes, this is a chair leg, and it's a very sturdy chair leg. It's going to stay there. Yes, this is a railing, and it tapers out, and it comes down to this really fine piece of steel, but it's still big enough nobody's going to fall up on it and bend it. I really like this vine. This vine looks great, but you take those leaves, and boy, they don't move a lick on that vine at all. They're there. They're there. And so that's I like to stay kind of earthy, I guess is a word you don't want to pick for it.
I think every blacksmith has a look.
Yeah.
You can pick out an Albert Paley.
Oh, yeah.
You can pick out a Noel Putnam.
Mm-hmm.
What makes your work stand out to other blacksmiths or people with an observant eye? What do you think your niche is?
I think it's the feel of my steel. I don't know. I had a gentleman come in a few years ago. He was from down in South America, Argentina, matter of fact. He had been in the Washington area, and I did a series of tables for a coffee shop. It was 55 of those tables, and I did the frames and the legs and all, and they had a granite top black granite top laid in top of them. And he really felt like the feel of the steel where it touched the stone at. So he calls me one time and he says, I've got 3 pieces of granite. I'd like for you to build tables for them. I said, no problem. Just drop it by the shop when you get an opportunity, and I'll build the tables for you. Okay. So there's one wintry day, and door flies open, and this young blonde lady comes in, and she says, is this Arnhart Ford? Yes, ma'am, this is it. She said, I have Mr. So-and-so with me, and he got his granite with him. Well, I thought the guy was local. I thought he just moved from someplace to here, and he had this granite laying around. Oh, no. He brought this granite from South America on a private plane, flew it in here, comes in and tells me the tale about how he'd had a .com company and they sold it for millions of dollars, and he's in like his mid-40s. He was retired and he was living in this villa down in South America somewhere. Nothing. But he was from the Leesburg area, and he'd gone in this coffee shop over there and felt these tables, and that's where he got my name from, the people that owned the shop, and that was the feel he wanted on his tables. I said, okay. So I built him 3 tables, called him. He says, okay, I'll be up 2 months or something other. Can you hope? Will they be in your way? No, I'll just throw them away. They'll be fine. So a couple months later, he comes up, and he just goes around those tables, and he takes one of these benches, and he just sits on that table, and he just runs his hand around the edge of those tables. Must have been 45 minutes. And I'm thinking, something wrong? Because he's not saying nothing. I'm thinking, have I done something wrong? He's not liking the feel. Finally, he said, I love these tables. And I had some of those roses sitting over there. He picked up one of those. He said, I'll take 6 of these roses too, because it looks good sitting on this table. And I said, okay. And he just pays you and leaves. And I thought, well, that's nice. He said, these will be in my villa in South America, in my deal in South America, tomorrow night. He takes them over, puts them on his private airplane, and away they go, I guess. So about 3 months later, he calls me up and he says, could you fly to Paris? I said, nope. He said, what? I said, I'm not going through the house. I'm going through the damn airport nowadays to go to Paris. He said, well, my wife has a table in Paris that she would like for you to copy, and because she wants 2 of them. I said, okay, have her take some good pictures and some good measurements, and we'll build this table. And sure enough, she does. She gets some really, really good pictures and brings them to me and all, and we built this table, and they flew it to Paris. So I've been very fortunate. I have pieces in 6 foreign countries, and I have pieces in 39 states in the United States. And I do not advertise. It's just all been word of mouth. And I think that's an accomplishment. Yeah, because I'm just not big on advertising. I've always thought that when I was training horses, it was the performance of the horse that decided who was a good trainer. When I was shoeing horses, it was what you put on the ground on the bottom of this horse's foot that kept you in business. The blacksmithing world, if you put it out there and the public receives it, which I've been received by the public by so generous, it's just unbelievable, then you can mark your life up as a success. And to me, a success is someone who's in business year after year, after year, after year, after year. And you do repeat business for the same customers. You know, they get a fireplace set. Okay, then they decide they're going to remodel their patio. So then they get a patio railing. Now they're going to put in a flower garden. They get a flower garden railing or a flower garden gate or whatever. Then they sell this place and they build another bigger place, and you go and you do the on work on that place. Now, we've had quite a few customers that way that as they moved along, we moved along with them over the past 18 or so years. Yeah.
What are some memorable projects? Maybe your most memorable project or a couple of them.
I did a set of tables for a gentleman who collects a lot of Remington statues, and he gets the high-end Remingtons. He's not going down to Pier 1, picking up Pier 1 no longer there. But anyway, he's not going down to the art show and picking them up. We did a set of tables for him, 3 tables, and he wanted them totally, they had to be all made out of American clear walnut. And the longest table was 5 foot long, and the 2 short ones were 3 foot long. And they were like 34 inches wide, something like that. And getting enough of that clear walnut to make those tables with the help of an excellent woodworker was a big chore. But he wanted these all to have maple leaves on them, or leaves on them, not maple leaves, but leaves on them. So to do the 3 tables all the way around, it took 450 leaves, handmade leaves. We worked on these tables for 6.5 months. And everything was hammered, everything was finished, everything was put together. Took them over to him, and he knew that these tables were going to be very expensive, and he was very rewarding for our work. He was met the contract and was very, very considerate after the contract. So then we built. After that, we built 4 fireplace sets for him and 2 handrails. And then the gentleman became so ill that he had to lose it, or he didn't have to lose it. He sold his place and he moved into a very private nursing home. Another project, we did 3.5 years worth of work on a private residence in Potomac, Maryland. The overall mansion on this place ended up costing somewhere between 13, 14 million. And we worked for about a little over 3.5 years on that place with different things, different types of railings and supports and screens and pickets and stuff. And that was quite a good, and we worked with the architect And I have never seen the house. I've seen pictures of it, but I've never been to the house. They sent me blueprints, and everything was picked up at the door, rolling door at the end of my shop. And they were quite, everything fit. Most of my work, I will guarantee that my railing will be within an eighth of an inch in a 10-foot span, handmade. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty close tolerances. We've done a world of built-in fireplace doors and screens, and those tolerances have to be really, really close because you don't want anything behind the ashes and stuff can get behind your frame or anything. So,
how far out do you stay booked with jobs?
Right now, we're probably, of course, I'm just getting over this knee surgery, and I haven't booked anything up real big, but I have probably 4 months worth of work right now. And as soon as the word gets around, I'm back in action. It'll pile up.
What's the furthest out you've been?
The farthest, 1.5 years. Mm-hmm. In fact, the lady was, she was so patient. I said, ma'am, it's going to be over 1 year before I can make this railing. She said, well, I'm 70-some years old, and I need this railing right away. I said, I'm sorry. I'm a one-man shop. I have a helper. At the time, I only had the gal helping me. I said, it's going to be close to 1.5 years when I get here. Well, it ended up, it was 1 year and 7 months. And she reminded me of that. She said, you said 1.5 years. That's 18 months, and you're 19 months now. To this month, I went, well, I'm sorry, ma'am, but things happen. And but yeah, 1.5 years has been the farthest I've been out. Yeah.
I'm sure you've learned some hard lessons in life.
Oh yeah.
What are some lessons that you feel would be valuable to share, especially around blacksmith work?
Well, underestimating your work. It's really hard to put a price on the quality of work you want to do versus the price you can get for it. It's hard to figure out that medium that, yes, I can go back to these people and tell them that, look, I underestimated this project and I can't do it for that. So I either need to give you your refund back or we need to rethink this project. And if you're straight up and honest with your customer, about 90% of them are going to say yes. They're going to say, okay, we can understand that. Price of steel went up. Price of coal went up. You didn't estimate enough time to get the quality that you want in this steel. You underestimated your ability. You think you're a little bit better smith than you are. That and taking on projects that you haven't done before. Like, don't take on a railing that has a lot of traditional joinery if you're not very proficient in traditional joinery. It'll bankrupt you. It'll break you. Either that or you put a piece of crap out there that people will look at and go, well, I don't need to call him because, boy, this right here's got rough joints. It's got the rivets are not smooth. They're not pretty. It looks rough. It's crude. I don't need to go that way. So stay within your ability. And expand your ability on your own. Don't try to expand it at a customer's expense. This will cost you big money in the long run. If you want to learn to do a project, do 12 of them. Do 10 of them. Don't just do one and think you know how to do it, because number 2 is going to reach up and bite you. Do several of them. Okay. All right, if I can't do that, because that's what ended up here, and that joint's 3 7/8 inches, and this joint over here is 4.5 inches. How did that happen? You didn't allow for the split in your bar and the shrinkage, or you hammered it out to. Who knows what you did wrong, but you did something wrong. And when you make a mistake, don't get mad. Don't pick it up and look at it and throw it in the corner. And that's a piece of crap. Stop. Study that mistake and say, okay, why did I make this mistake? Okay, what did I do? And think back through the process that you went to get this piece to where it's at right now. Okay, bam. When I measured that, I didn't allow for stretches in that joint. I didn't allow for shrinkage in that joint when I rounded it out. I didn't allow for this, that, and the other. So that's why you want to make 10 or 12, 15, 20 of them. And that gives you experience of what to do with your steel. Now, it's not as bad today as it used to be 10 or 15 years ago. We used to get some steel that just would not forge. You could get some steel and you could cut off and you could forge a leaf, beautiful leaf, and you could make 4 or 5 of them. And all of a sudden you run up on a section of that bar that just would not forge a pretty leaf. And so you're thinking, well, I must be tired. It's got to be me. That piece of steel. Every steel you buy is not perfect. Most of it we buy, yes, is really good. Some of your imported steels have spots in it that are not quite like they should be. They put in too many beer cans. They put in, I don't know, too many rusty cans. They did something anyway, and you'll hit a piece of steel that's just not quite right. That's why I only do American steel and Canadian steel. Canadian's good steel. I don't want any steel from overseas. I got too much time in that to take a chance on it. Now, do I use old repossessed? I do a lot. I'll be going through somebody's barnyard or visiting somebody's barn or something. Well, you know, that stack of old junk steel there. Well, if you'll haul it off, you can have it. Well, you bring it home and you'll find that you can make some real nice hooks out of it. You can make some nice pickets out of it. You can make some whatever out of it. Hey, it's old. You've repurposed it. And people like when you make stuff out of refurbished steel. That seems to hit a warm spot in some people's hearts. So it works good. Yeah, works good. Yeah, but just be a good judge of your own work. Don't put it out there and say, boy, that really looks good. Critique your work. And boy, it looks good, but it feels like crap. Do it over. Make it feel warm. Make it feel personable. Make it look nice. And just do it until you get that feeling. Yeah. And really be hard on yourself on pricing, because you can price yourself right out of the market. And don't worry about it. Wouldn't bother me tomorrow if the top smith in the nation built a shop next door to me and I had to compete with him. It doesn't bother me a lick. That does not bother me a lick, because I have my style of work and he has his style of work. And people are going to take my style of work and I'm going to stay busy. And people are going to take his style of work and he's going to stay busy. And the competition is in your mind. Yeah. And if someone takes your bid and the customer is foolish enough to give out your bid number and they decide they can do it for $2,000 cheaper, fine. Because you will never lose money on a contract you don't get. Just count on it. The one that you underbid is the one that's going to sneak up and bite you. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you name, you mentioned Noel Putnam.
Yes.
Who were other mentors in your blacksmithing career?
Well, you have all of the great smiths, you know, the Whitakers and the Clay Spencer was a big deal in it. Bill Gishner was a big deal in it. I'm a very true believer in Dale Marsh's work. I love his work. He gives his steel an expression that I try to capture, and some pieces I do, and some people I don't. But most everything you touch his has that nice personable feel to it. I've studied a lot of the blacksmiths' work, you know, over in the cathedral and around the country and all of the big smiths. that the older smiths just really intrigued me to go and feel their work. I love looking at it, but I want to touch it. I want to run my hands over it. I want to see what kind of vibe does that steel work give to me. I don't even know it did 100 years ago. Some of it longer. I just get that feeling. Yep. Yeah. So, and we have a tremendous amount. Well, you, for example, your work is very inspiring. Your artistry, I really like looking at your pictures. Your drawing is great. Me, I can't draw. I make lines, and I know what they're supposed to look like. Somebody else look at it and they go, boy, that's your wasted paper and pencil. What is that supposed to be? I look at it, and I know what I want it to finish up looking like. But to be able to draw it, it's just not, that's not my forte. But come here and pick this hammer up and come to this anvil with a hot piece of steel, I can turn it into what I want it to be. I can make it into that nice, long, tapered leaf. I can make it into that nice, long stem piece of limb. It's got to be in where I want in it. I can forge weld two pieces together and have that look that I want. But as far as drawing it, I can draw that joint. I know it's a joint right there, but it don't look nothing like what it does when I finish up with it. And I think that's a gift. And it's probably a gift that had I started drawing earlier, I probably could have mastered that. And it's kind of like computers. I don't do computers. I don't text. I don't email. I got a little tablet down there that I can read the Facebook on, and I can look up stuff and order it, or I can look up stuff and get the numbers and give it to my wife, and she can order it and pay for it. But as far as communicating back and forth with one of them phones where you get all them letters, and I'm not into it. I've never been into it. Don't like it. I'd rather talk person to person, or I'd rather talk on the phone person to person. I just don't. Send me a letter or talk to me. If you call me up and I don't answer my phone, leave me a message, I will get back to you. If I'm not too busy, it'll be today. If it's too busy, I'll do it tomorrow. But I'm not into this modern communication, and I fully realize that that's probably going to be an area where people are going to have to get into it more to stay competitive in their craft. But it's just not my cup of tea.
What's your advice for young blacksmith getting into trade?
Well, I think a young smith needs to work with an older smith, one older smith, for a year to 2 years to get his basic training. And then I think he needs to branch out and maybe work with other smiths if there's an opening, and he can afford to do it. He should go take his tutelage under other smiths also to combine with what he's learned. In the first 2 years, most smiths are still learning how to caress their steel. The first year, they still want to just beat that piece of steel all to hell. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. So once they learn that hammering this steel is kind of like making love to your wife, you got to move this steel with a fluid motion and with a texture and with a feel. You don't just haul off and just beat it to death. We can hire a monkey to beat a piece of steel to death. A blacksmith will caress that steel. He'll shape that steel, and he'll feel that steel as he's getting it into this pattern. And so I think in that second year, these smiths start picking up when they start feeling their hot steel moving under the hammer instead of just hitting and looking at it. They're feeling it before they look at it. They know the steel went that way. They know the steel came back to us. They know the steel went out long. It shortened up whatever we're trying to do with it. So you'll see they'll pick up more accuracy with their hammer. Their steel will start taking shape a lot quicker. I have one student, he's heading into his second year, and he's starting to see that. Some of the first pieces he made, I don't make can over there. They just keep this one, put it back in your drawer somewhere or another, because you need to look at it 5 years down the road. The rest of that stuff, throw in the damn scrap bucket. It needs to go up to bring 3 cents a pound, because it ain't worth nothing. It's just junk. And once they realize that what they've made is of no use, it's not saleable, it's decorative. You can't give it to anybody you like, because they're going to make fun of you. Then they start getting this feel of moving the steel. What they want to do? They're making a flower, or they're making a leaf petal, or they're making a railing picket, or we're rounding up a tenon. We making a chair leg. We hollering out a chair leg to make that leg come around this way. Whatever we're doing. They're learning to use a swedge block. They're learning to use the steps in their anvil. They learn to use their. One of the hardest things I think for young smiths to learn how to do is punch holes. They have a hard time punching a nice, round, clean hole. So they can't punch too many holes. Sometimes one of my students will be making something. He said, "Well, I'm gonna drill a hole in that." No, you're not. You're gonna punch a hole in there. Oh, but I don't want to mess it up. We'll punch the right hole in, and they'll work, and they'll finally get a hole whittled in there, and it'll be reasonably good. And that's experience that they need to have, and then going off to clinics, going off to work for another smith for 6 months. 3 months, whatever this other smith may need a helper. They know enough to be a help to this other smith in his shop. Now, are they good enough to make him a lot of money? Probably not. But they're good enough for him to pay him a stipend that they can get by on. And that's one of the things that young smiths have to learn is, unfortunately, in today's society, we're training people to start up here and end up down here. We're not teaching people to start on the ground floor and gradually work them way up and get your rewards as you go up. We're just getting too educated. We need to get back to fundamentals and basics a little bit more. Yeah.
Have you found this lifetime pursuit of blacksmithing to be fulfilling?
Oh, much, yes. Once you understand the craft, until you understand the craft, it's a life of cold in the winter, sweating your butt off in the summer. It's dirty. It's nasty. You're going to get burnt. You're going to mash your finger. You're going to drop something on your toe. It's a brutal life to learn. But once you make that first project, that all this comes together, all those hours of hammering and all those hours of trying to draw something, all those hours spent with modeling clay, making this thing, they all come together and you make this nice little project, or maybe it's a bigger project. Then, yes, now you're on your way to a fulfilling career. And being able to see objects that are not there. You see the piece of steel, you have the object in your mind, you take the piece of steel and you make the object. Do I need to make 40 pieces to finish this object? Do I need to make 100 pieces to finish this object? Do I need to make 3 pieces to finish this object? Now it's filling to your mind. And when you do something and one of your peers, whom you respect greatly, approves of it, like Noel would come by and that's really a nice job on that traditional joinery there. That's pretty cool. That's the way I'd have done it. Then that's where it gets you, buddy. That now you know that I think there is never one master of any craft. I think we have multiple masters of all crafts. I think when you reach a certain level, you're one of the masters of that craft. Am I at that level? No. Am I going to live long enough to get that level? Not in my mind. Maybe I'll be perceived like that by my peers. Maybe I won't. I don't know. That's up to them to judge. But it's the goal that you want to get. Whatever I do today, I'd like to do it a little bit better tomorrow. And next week, I'd like for it to be a little bit better than this week. Yeah. And it's a mindset.
Well, thank you for talking, Joe. I want to end on a fun question. What style hammer do you forge with, and why do you choose that style? And
well, this is my main hammer right here. Now I use other style hammers. I use a rounding hammer, like this one right here. This was made for me by a friend of mine down in Texas. For like doing curvatures, or when I'm doing like a scroll deal, and I want that inside flattened down on that scroll, I use a round-faced hammer. But this is my main hammer right here. This hammer was rebuilt for me in 2005 by our friend Noel Putton, and I've never quit using it today. I prefer this style of hammer. These are not for everyone. Everyone doesn't pick the balance up on these hammers. It takes a little bit. There's some other hammers out there that I've picked up that I thought they might be a little bit better balanced, but I always come back to this one. Yeah, I always come back to this one. Yeah. And my theory on handmade tools are, if I can buy this tool for 40, 50, 60 bucks, I'm better off to buy that tool, go back to the shop, use it, than I am to spend 3 hours making that tool myself. Because now I've got 3 hours in this tool, and it may turn out quite like I want it. So now I've got $200 in this tool, and it ain't what I want. So I've fiddled away 3 hours that I could be doing something creative that would make me $1, and I got the tools here that I want. So, yes, do I make tools? Yes, I make a lot of chisels, punches. I make some tongs. But if I see it when I'm at a trade show or somebody, if it's reasonable, I just buy it. Yeah, I'm not against tool making, not against tong making. I think it's an art everyone should learn. But at the same time, if I can buy that pair of tongs for $45 and go home, it took me 15 minutes to buy them and pay for them, and I'm back in business rather than 2 hours and a half making them at the house, and whether I like them or not, it's questionable. So that's kind of my theory on that. I certainly do appreciate you taking the time to come over and film me in my little humble shop.
Oh, I'm honored to be here. And thank you for your time.
Hopefully that this will work out for you.
I think so. Thank you, Joe.
Yes.